In this series, we're wanting to get real honest, and we want to take a moment to look under the surface for what could be disastrous and potentially could shipwreck our lives. Last week, we kicked off the series reminding us that we can't hide and heal. And now I love that line, you cannot hide and heal. That it's in the darkness that below the surface things start to develop. And that one of the best ways to protect that, protect from that danger is to actually guard our hearts, to keep watch on our hearts, to care about what's happening in our hearts. And last week we started drawing wisdom from an ancient Proverbs 4:23 that says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Man, that's what's in our heart, what's allowed to be pushed down under the surface, what's allowed to be hidden. It matters a ton, and it's worth us slowing down and looking at it. So today we're gonna move from talking about how do we guard our heart to actually start to drill down into our heart to find what is some of the stuff that we've pushed down under the surface. What is something that so many of us have been conditioned, encouraged, taught, led to shove down thinking that was good and right. Today we're gonna go drilling and talk about anger. Okay, so if I'm honest, I bet a ton of us just probably sighed a huge sigh of relief because we believe anger ain't our thing. We say that it's not our thing because we know a guy who's like way worse than us. We know a guy that when he's angry, he blows his top, and we know that we're not that guy. We're not the rage monster. We know that we're actually nothing like this guy. We've all golfed with this guy. We've all played around with the rage monster. You know, one bad shot loses his mind. Or one simple accident, one mistake. And it's not like, hey, how do we handle this like mature adults? It is like full seeing red, going nuts.
Wait, you say that? Are you some sort of like rage monster? Rage monster? Rage monster? I am the rage monster!
Man, if you don't know these guys are dude perfect, and they just make these crazy videos with these different stereotypes, and this is their rage monster stereotype. Man, we see this guy, and we think that's the guy who should be in church today. That's the guy who this sermon applies to. That's the guy who's really mad. But you know, some of us, we just don't know this guy. We might live with this guy. We might be this guy. We might deeply long to act like this guy. I love it. A simple handshake, and we're good. Okay. Man, we see that guy. And we're like, we're nothing like that guy. Well, some of us, we know that guy. We might work with that guy. You know, it's the guy who in the middle of the meeting just starts shouting and his veins start popping up out of his head and he's pounding the table and you're like, well, bro, you're gonna have a heart attack. Or it's the mom that you walk by in the drive-through lane just screaming bloody murder that her order was wrong. And you're like, your kids are in the back seat learning. You're gonna get that back one day. Or it's the player that you see on the field who does something wrong and just cussing the ref out. Or it's the middle schooler. It's the middle schooler who like their brain and their body hasn't quite caught up and they're in that awkward stage where they kind of have like these strong feelings and they just lose their marbles. I actually got a friend whose son is in that stage and he on one hand loves this stage. On the other hand, it's really challenging because the other day his son lost his mind. And in the middle of this chaotic moment, his son's just erupting and his son shouts at his dad, "You're nothing but a giant warlock giraffe." And my friend was like, what does that mean? And he's like literally laughing in his kid's face. And he's like, I know that's not the best parenting moment, but he's like, I couldn't help it because it was so crazy what was coming out of his mouth. But let's be honest, middle schooler or not, some of us, when we're raging, we can say some crazy stuff. But after hearing that story, I have decided that's gonna be my next insult. So if any of you cut me off today leaving, you best be believing I'm gonna be muttering under my breath, you giant warlock giraffe. But you know, so many of us, we actually take it so much farther than just calling someone a giant warlock giraffe. We're not proud of it, but you did actually cuss out the ref at the game in front of everyone. You did rage drive your car right up on someone's bumper because they cut you off and you had to teach them a lesson. You did punch a hole in the wall because you couldn't control it? Man, if that's you, I've actually got some really good news for you. You don't have to worry about what's under the surface because it's already above the surface. We already know your anger. It's already erupting all over the surface. Now you just got to take a closer look to what's pushing it up. Man, you're already out of hiding. Now it's just time to start healing. But some of us, we're not the rage monster. Our anger, it looks a little bit different. So I just want to ask you guys some random questions to get us started here. I don't know. Have you noticed yourself, and be honest here, have you noticed yourself feeling a little bit more depressed lately? Maybe like weighed down with life? Or maybe feeling like others are always trying to control you, micromanage you? Or maybe a little bit paranoid that you can't trust anyone, feeling like there's some like clandestine puppet master behind every corner pulling on the strings. Or maybe you're struggling because all of a sudden you are surrounded by a bunch of doofuses who cannot get it right and they keep screwing up. Or maybe you're recognizing that those passive-aggressive thoughts are becoming more and more passive-aggressive actions. Well, if that's you, congratulations. You've made it on Psychology Today's top 5 signs of repressed anger. If that's you, the top 5 signs of repressed anger is depression, subjugation, paranoia, self-righteousness, and passive aggressiveness. Those are the top 5, but they actually list a lot more. They continued and they said if you have extra headaches, digestive issues, emotional numbness, sluggishness, lingering sadness, lack of motivation, inability to stand up for oneself, having a harsh inner critic, inability to relax, intense anxiety, self-sabotaging behaviors, you might have repressed anger. It's like The Price is Right. Come on down. It's like all of us are angry, when you start reading that list. That's a big old list of how when we repress our anger, we allow it to linger down below, when we keep shoving it down, how it has a way of working out and messing us up. Man, research is showing that when we shove down our anger, when we suppress it, it affects us, even when we think it's not. Even when we think we got it under control, there's still consequences. Man, guys, the anger that we push down has a way of rotting our bones, of destroying things that we love most. Man, we think the iceberg is under control, but really what's underneath is shipwrecking us. So we've talked about 2 types of anger. We talked about how there's the rage monsters and there's the stuffers, but I actually think there's a 3rd type. I think there's actually 3 types of angry people. I think the 3rd one are deniers. These are the people that I am. This is my group. We're the group that doesn't even know we're angry. We somehow or another play Jedi mind tricks with ourselves where we're like, these are not the feelings you're looking for. Star Wars fans, we're not getting through May 4th without one Star Wars comment. You're welcome. But before you think I'm crazy because I claim to be a denier, you just gotta hear a little bit of my story. Maybe my story resonates a little bit with yours. If you've been around for a while, I've shared a lot of my story over the years, but one part of my story I've never shared was the morning after my family had a horrific car wreck. This wreck has literally redefined our family in so many ways. I was 2-3 years old. My sister was 5 or so, and it was December the 20th, and it was about 5:30 in the afternoon, and my mom and dad had just picked us up from daycare, and we were headed home in our awesome 1984 baby blue Honda Accord. And on the way home, I got the incredible privilege of riding co-pilot. Man, it is every 3-year-old's dream to be in the front seat with dad, which back in the 80s, that apparently was okay. And so I'm riding co-pilot with dad, and before we know it, this elderly couple pulls out. They never saw us, and we T-boned them full speed. Man, my dad broke stuff. My mom got super busted up. But worst of all, there was a period that we didn't know if my sister was gonna live or die. Once we realized that she was gonna live, we didn't know if she would ever see again. My sister was super messed up, and it truly is a miracle that she's alive. Oddly enough, though, the only person not taken away in an ambulance that night was the 3-year-old in the floorboard. I don't get it. Like somehow or another, I'm the only one who wasn't taken by ambulance to the hospital. In fact, I was the one left on the curb waiting for someone to pick me up as my family drove away. Guys, it was a crazy night. Well, the next morning, mom and dad, they're in the hospital, they're waking up, and my sister's been in surgery all night, putting her face back together, and I'm at home with my grandparents, and my dad gets a call from the local church saying, we heard, we're coming to visit. And so my mom and dad, who are literally broken, busted, bruised. I mean, they don't even know how badly their little girl is hurt. My dad's in a full leg cast. My mom's got stitches all over the place. In the middle of all of that, my dad looks at my mom and now says these famous words for the Parks family. He looks at my mom and he goes, Carol, that's my mama, pull it together. The church is coming. And here's the famous line, go paint the barn. Go paint the barn. If you've never heard that, that's like a Southern way, a Parks family way of saying, wash your face, get it together, look put together. Guys, your barn could be full of mess, but it best look good from the road. Go paint the barn. Go shove all of that emotional junk, all of those negative, ugly feelings, and go shove those down and present yourself well. Last week, Jason, he said in his family, they called it put on your Sunday best. Parks's, we called it painting the barn. See, my dad was raised in a home that any weakness was simply not allowed. Negative emotions were like violently reacted against, and it simply was not safe for him growing up to not be strong and in control. So he did what his life had conditioned him to do. He did what he did because this was how he protected his family. And so he taught us to paint the barn. So I grew up being conditioned to wash our face, stuff our feelings, get our feelings under control, and paint the barn. We took all that was weak, all that was vulnerable, all that was ugly, and we covered it up. Guys, I actually got so good at painting the barn, masking anything negative within my life that by the time I graduated high school, I won the Optimism Award for the entire school district. Not once, but twice. I was profoundly, obnoxiously the happiest kid in the district. I got voted the friendliest as a senior superlative. I had become a master of getting any negative emotions and just shoving them down. But not just shoving them down, but completely denying they even existed. Like I had convinced myself that I was just a pure bottle of sunshine, happy, nothing wrong, no negative emotions. Guys, some of us are rage monsters. Some of us know we're stuffers, and some of us are blissfully ignorant deniers. But all of us, no matter how we handle our anger, we gotta learn how to dig below the surface, and we gotta learn how to deal with what's there. All of us have to learn how to notice and name it, how to share it with others, and how to bring it to God. We all have to learn how to notice and name it, share it with others, and bring it to God. Guys, some of us have actually never allowed ourselves to dig under the surface, to notice, and to start to name what's there. We've never felt safe enough to go to someone and share it. We never thought we could remotely come to God and say, God, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm mad. Man, I wanna tell you one of the most life-changing truths I have ever learned about anger. Someone shared with me and it just rocked my world. So whether you're a rage monster, a stuffer, or a denier, I gotta share this with you. Did you know that anger is not a sin? Anger is not a sin. Anger is not a sin. To say that without churchy words, anger does not mean you're bad. It does not mean you are something bad. Some of us really, really, really need to hear this right now. Anger is not a sin. To feel angry is not a sin. To admit you're angry is not a sin. To share with God that you're angry is not a sin. Man, you wanna know what anger is? Anger is an emotion. And you wanna know what an emotion is? An emotion is an uncontrollable biological rush of chemicals that happens in response to a situation we're facing. It's our body's way of saying something's happening, take notice, pay attention. Another way of saying it is how my counselor for years has been trying to pound it into my thick head. My counselor's been saying to years, emotions are just data. Emotions are just data. And for us today, that means anger is just data. Anger, it's just data. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just data. All emotions are just data. Data that's trying to tell you something. So when you feel anger, when you feel that rush, when you feel your face starting to get red and your heart starting to pound, that's simply data rushing through your body trying to say, notice something, notice something, notice something. And there is nothing wrong with recognizing data. One of the very first pastors was a guy named Paul, and he was actually coaching some brand new Christians, some brand new followers of Jesus who were trying so hard to live differently because their lives being changed by Christ. And he's coaching them on how should they respond to this rush of emotion we call anger. And so Paul, this pastor, he writes this letter called Ephesians, and he says in this letter, he says, be angry and yet do not sin. Be angry and yet do not sin. I mean, this is huge. This is huge. I want to make sure that you catch it. To feel anger is not sin, but anger can cause you to sin. To feel anger is not a sin, but anger can cause you to sin. Feeling angry is not bad, but giving into those feelings can lead you to bad things. I can feel angry, that's okay, but give into that anger and punch you in the face, that's a different story. And here's why what Paul said almost 2,000 years ago is so powerful. Think about how freeing this truth is. Basically what Paul is saying is your emotions don't control you. Your emotions don't control you. You can feel something. You can have a biological response to something. You can notice it and you can name it and you cannot be controlled by it. You can notice it and share it and not be defined by it. You can take it to God and not be owned by it. Instead of getting angry and feeling like we have to explode or stuff it or deny it or put it away in the barn and paint it pretty, God says you can hold it, you can recognize it, you can examine it, you can get curious about it, and then you get to choose what to do with it. I love that Paul is coaching these young Christians to be angry. Feel it. Name it, recognize it. There's nothing to be ashamed of that, nothing to deny or hide. But then choose what you're gonna do with it. Paul continues his training and he adds a line that's actually created a lot of confusion over the years. He adds this as he's coaching them. He says, be angry and yet do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Now, this verse has caused so much confusion for so many people over the years because it's been applied as like a literal clock. Like if the sun is setting, you best be resolving this issue. But let's be honest, that's not always reality. I mean, there's a lot of folks who've actually had worse fights because someone is pressing the other one to reconcile faster than they are physically capable of. They physically cannot process the emotions and all their data and all those chemicals as fast as the other person is wanting them to. Sometimes by pushing to resolve our anger before the sun literally goes down, we can just make things so much worse. So let's get really real. Because that's something that we do around here at LCBC. We don't hide our junk from each other. We tell the truth. If I'm getting really honest, this is something I've messed up in my marriage for years. I've struggled with this for years. I still struggle with this to this day. Man, I will realize that I've made Pearl, my wife, mad. And then inside this internal clock starts ticking. This pressure kicks in that I've got to reconcile now. And I start to do everything I can to pressure her to fully reconcile as fast as we can before her head hits the pillow. And so I will pester, I will repeatedly keep asking, I will literally follow her around the house like a little puppy, just asking and asking and asking, trying to make her talk about it. You wanna know what that is? You know what that creates? That is a really expensive counseling bill in the making. And you get to learn really fancy words like a negative behavioral cycle reinforced through a pursuit withdrawal dynamic. In non-fancy words, it doesn't work. It only makes her more mad and it makes her more upset and it doesn't help. Man, I'll pursue to fix it and she's physically not even remotely ready. Her body is still screaming because of these chemicals, danger, run for your life. And so she's emotionally starting to withdraw. She'll physically start to withdraw and then here I come. And then round and round and round we go. And I keep making it worse and worse and worse. So what's Paul trying to say here? After reading that verse closer, I realized that I missed one word. I missed a key word. I missed a key word that changed everything for me. Notice this one little word that Paul says. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Your anger. It's got nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with my anger, my feelings, my heart. Then I started to realize that I don't think Paul's actually talking about a literal sun go down clock. It's actually a metaphor he's playing with of don't settle into this. Don't rest into this way of being. Don't keep running this over and over and over and over again in your head. Feel it, recognize it, but then let it go. You know, anger's a lot like wet cement in a bucket. If you've ever had wet cement in a bucket, you know that when it's still wet, it's easy to clean up. It's easy to wash out. But let that stuff sit there for a while, let the sun go down on it, and it becomes profoundly harder to deal with. Man, don't let your anger sit there. Get in the practice of realizing it and cleaning it out and letting it go. Basically what Paul is saying, he's saying feel it, but don't become it. Feel it, but don't become it. Man, feel angry. Don't become an angry person. Feel upset, but don't become an upset person. Feel it because it's there whether you want to admit it or not, and then courageously choose to not make you explode. Courageously choose to not stuff it. Courageously choose to not deny it and let it go. So whether you're a rage monster or a stuffer or a denier like me, how in the world do we start to do that? How do we move forward? How do we deal with what's under the surface when all of this is starting to happen? Well, our first step is notice and name it. Notice and name it. I mean, rage monsters, that's easy for you because we all see it. What you gotta do though is actually incredibly hard. You gotta push real hard to see past that red rage in the moment and to recognize that red rage, that's not your anger. That's not the source of it. That's the byproduct of the source. And you gotta take this, control it, put it aside, and start digging. Stuffers, you know it's there, boiling, churning. You just don't wanna admit it. You don't want to recognize it. And you gotta know it's okay to notice it. It's okay to name it. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to admit you're angry. And deniers, to all the me's out there, and this is probably the hardest step for you and I. See, I'm kind of jealous of the rage monsters and the stuffers when it comes to this because they know it, but we're often unaware it even exists. You know, over the years, one of the verses in the Bible that convicts me the most is Psalms 46:10. It says, "Be still and know that I'm God." But the thing that I hate the most about this verse that convicts me the most is two words. Be still. Be still. Guys, I don't like being still. I don't like settling down. I don't like slowing down. And I really, 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 really don't like slowing down and getting in touch with my feelings. I wanna stay busy, I wanna stay distracted, and I wanna pretend I'm happy. I don't have time for all those bad feelings. Or so I thought. You know, what's sad is how many times in my marriage, Pearl has had to come to me and say, "Hey, honey, it feels like you're upset. Feels like you're angry." And for years, she would come to me and she would say that, and it would be like throwing gas on my internal fire that I was trying so hard to deny was even there. I mean, she would say it and I internally would be screaming because I was so badly trying to deny that there was anything negative happening. And all the while, all those emotions, all those chemicals are rushing through my body. And eventually it would click, maybe she's onto something. And maybe just possibly there's an itty bitty teeny weeny, a little bit of a negative emotion in there. And you know, I'm being silly with how I described that. But what really started to make me deal with this was when it went from Pearl saying, "Man, it feels like you're upset," to, I don't feel safe sharing my emotions with someone who can't recognize their emotions. I don't feel safe sharing my heart with someone who can't recognize their heart. That knocked me back. My denial of negative emotions, my denial of anger, my attempt to repress, to protect those around me was actually doing the exact opposite. Rage monsters, stuffers, deniers. Man, it's easy to believe the lie that by shoving this down, we're somehow or another protecting those around us from it, protecting ourselves from it. But in reality, we're not. It's like wet cement that is only hardening. And those that we love, can feel our hearts hardening as well. And that's actually more painful than dealing with painful emotions. So let's just go ahead. Let's go ahead and own it. Let's slow down and stop denying and stop pushing it aside and stop pretending that it's not there and stop exploding. And let's do what the Bible says is best and feel it. Let's be angry. Let's feel it. But let's be angry and not sin. Let's notice it. Let's name it. But then let's not stop there. Let's share it with others. Let's share it with others. Now, for all of us, what this means is recognizing that we're having this biological chemical response to something, and then choosing to follow the wisdom of Scripture and recognize that we're having this feeling, but this feeling does not dictate what I do. And I'm gonna recognize that I'm feeling angry, and then I'm not gonna do angry things, and instead I'm gonna trust Jesus, and I'm gonna share it with someone. I want to share it with someone who is wise and safe, who can help me unpack why I'm feeling all of this to begin with. Now, don't share this with someone who's going to add gas to that fire. Don't share this with someone who's immature and going to give you trash advice. Don't share this with someone who can't carry the weight of the burden that you're sharing. Which side note, hey parents, it does not matter how bad your spouse is, how bad their bio parent is, how mad you are at them. Your kids cannot handle the weight of your negative emotions. They cannot carry adult feelings, so don't burden your kids with this. All of us need wise friends, wise professionals, possibly counselors who can help us process, who can hear, who can carry, who can help us dig under. Man, one of the fastest ways that I've discovered that I have a wise friend in front of me and who is not a wise friend is those wise friends, when I start to vulnerably share something, they hold space to listen. They listen and they don't judge, but they care. And the advice they give back is actually advice that sounds a lot like Jesus's advice. Man, whenever they say, oh, that sounds like that hurts. Can you tell me more? Hey, why do you think that's triggering you so bad? You know, I'm a grown man, and I had another grown man do the weirdest thing. He sent me a pillow. That's a weird thing for men to do. But he and his wife, they love this pillow, and so they sent it to Pearl and I. And just to give you a close-up of the pillow, this has got an emotional wheel on it, and so it's got like your primal emotions, and then second tier and third tier emotions. And see, this pillow was a huge sign that they were actually really wise friends. This pillow became a tool that my wife and I got to use. And so now, dudes, I'm just gonna tell you, don't go buy emotional pillows and pass them out at the shop tomorrow. It does not work well for you. But guys, I do want you to go with me for a second here. See, Pearl and I, we now have this pillow. And when I share with her that I'm angry, or more than likely when she says, hey, it feels like you're angry, one of us will pull up this pillow. And I'm embarrassed to say this because sometimes I feel very juvenile and like an emotional delinquent admitting this, but she'll say that. And like a Neanderthal, I will look at this pillow and I'll be like, me angry. Great first step. She'll then will say, well, honey, why are you angry? What's behind that? And I will look at the second tier and I'll go, I feel threatened. Okay, that's great, that's great. Well, why do you feel threatened? I'm feeling insecure. And guys, this is where the gold is. This is where the healing starts. This is what it means to go under the surface. When we go one more step and we start to ask, why are we insecure? Well, whatever just happened made me feel angry. And because I felt angry, I felt threatened. Because I felt threatened because I felt insecure. And if I get really, really, really honest and I dig under the surface, I feel insecure because for whatever reason, this situation made me feel like I was 3-year-old Matt sitting on a curb after a massive car wreck with no clue if my family would live or die, with flashing lights and sirens, and I was scared stupid. Do you know what can happen in your marriage if you stop denying this and you start working deeper and deeper and deeper to what's triggering it? Do you know the power when your wife comes close? 2 seconds before, you were angry at each other and you were fighting and you had anger. Because you've drilled down under the surface, she pulls in and she says, baby, you're not alone. There's no danger here. You're safe. I got you. Do you know how much that can change things? Do you know how much that can free things? But guys, let's be honest. As much as I love Pearl, and as much truth as she has shared with me, there's some wounds deep in our hearts that she can't heal, that she can't carry. And 3-year-old Matt, your inner child that's screaming, causing whatever it is you're responding to, you gotta take that and you gotta bring that to God. And you gotta say, God, I'm scared, I'm wounded. This is getting triggered in me. God, I gotta bring you my anger. I gotta bring you this rage. God, I need you to help start chipping away at all the cement in my heart and help me figure out what is underneath all of this driving this up. Because until you dig down, you're not gonna heal. Man, as we keep bringing these things back to God, and he just starts chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping. And he slowly works a new heart in us. And just as Ezekiel said, we come to God and he gives us a new heart. He says, I will put a new spirit in you and I will take that stony, stubborn, cemented heart and I will give you a tender, responsive heart. Man, I don't want anger that I can't help but feeling. Because remember, anger is just an emotion. I don't want what I can't control. I don't want to keep pushing that down. I don't want to keep denying. And I don't want to keep adding cement back into my heart. I don't want to keep stuffing and smiling and acting like it's all okay and I'm put together and I painted the barn. I don't want to live in fear that at any moment, all that stuff that I'm working so hard to push down is going to come erupting up out of me and leave a wake of destruction. I don't want that. And if we're honest, I don't think you do either. I think that is a huge burden to carry. So are you tired of carrying the weight of a stony heart? The weight of a hurt heart? Man, are you tired of carrying the stress of pushing and managing and denying and smiling and acting like it's all good? Full well knowing you got stuff underneath there you need to work on. Man, are you tired of letting your rage monster break loose? Man, if that's you, come to Jesus. Invite him to take that stony heart, that hurt heart, and invite him to start healing that heart. Guys, anger is not a sin, but left undealt with, sure can lead to it. Anger is not bad, but left below the surface, it can sure lead to some bad things. Anger is just a chemical response rushing through our bodies because of a situation. And when we notice it and name it and share it and bring it to God, we let him carry the weight of it, we get to start to heal. But here's the crazy thing about all these chemical rushes of emotions. Chemicals are addicting. The chemicals of anger, and they can really become a hard drug to kick. But guys, it's so worth it. Come to Jesus and ask for a new heart.